Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force, J.T.F. I'm Chaim ben Pesach, and we're here with the great David ben Moshe, who has the flu, who's sick, and yet, because it's such an important program, he's here with us despite that fact, and he's going to be making a brave effort to participate in the program. This is a very, very important program because here we're going to speak about why I'm very worried about this election and about Kamala Harris. And we're going to discuss the polls, and we're going to discuss the danger here of her winning the election. We're also going to discuss her potential vice presidential candidates, which is also very, very concerning. The people she may pick, including self-hating Jews running. So it's going to be a very important program, and we're going to discuss how even if Donald Trump wins, we're in trouble. Even if Donald Trump wins, we support Donald Trump because he's the lesser of the evils here. But Donald Trump is also a very serious problem. We're going to tell you about his communications with the PLO Nazi mass butcher Abu Mazen Mahmoud Abbas and the danger for Israel. So we're in trouble no matter what, and the only hope we have is the Hilltop youth for stopping this. We're going to discuss all of that with you. But first, this program is dedicated to Refuah Shlema, complete recovery for David ben Moshe, Liat bat Shifra, Niv ben Bina, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Sharon Mitman, Shlomo ben Sarah, Dorit bat Sarah, Ruven ben Shoshana, and Ruth bat Sarah. And to Ilui Neshamot, elevating of the souls for Malka bat Meir, Allegra bat Shlomo, Daniel Nankin, Victor Chazdai, Pesach ben Dov, Lunita Adler, Shifra Hoffman, Ruven Hoffman, Barry Hoffman, Harab Mir Kahana, Harab Binyamin Kahana, Tzipora Fegi, Bat Liba, Yosef ben Meir, Robert Mittman, Dennis Shore, Helen Friedman, Charles Zolat, and Yair Levine. Well, we were right. All the experts and all the analysts and all the commentators said, Democrats, you got to get used to it. Joe Biden is your nominee. It's too late to change. He's going to be the candidate. There's no indication that he's going to drop out. You got to get used to it. They said that even after the debate. They said Joe Biden is not going to drop out. And they all predicted that this is going to continue and that that realistically it's going to continue to be a race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. We told you for quite a while now that we expected that Donald Trump will be forced out of the race. He didn't want to drop out, but he will be forced out of the race by Democrats.
No, you said Donald Trump, you mean Joe Biden.
I mean Joe Biden. I'm sorry, that Joe Biden will be forced out of the race by Democrats. Yes, I'm sorry about that. And of course, that's exactly what we predicted is exactly what happened. Not only that, we were told that if something happens and Joe Biden is out of the race for whatever reason, we were told it's going to be Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama, or I mean, a million possibilities were floated around. The governor of Michigan, and all these other, the Pritzker of Illinois, Shapiro of Pennsylvania. They were all the people, the names that were floated around because we were told that Kamala Harris is not a candidate who's viable and that the party leaders don't like her and don't want her. So we said, no, she's going to be picked. She's going to be picked despite all of her disadvantages. So two big predictions we made. We said that Biden would be pushed out of the race. We've been saying this all along, and it did happen despite the fact that the so-called experts said no. And the second thing, we said Kamala Harris will be his replacement, even though everybody threw around a million names and said, no, Kamala Harris, she's also unacceptable to Democrats. So no, but we said no, it would be Kamala Harris. So we were right. So you want to know what's going to happen? J.T.F. makes pretty accurate predictions over the years. We've been right 95% of the time. Much higher percentage than the so-called experts and commentators and analysts. And why did we know that Kamala Harris was going to be picked? Because she's a black woman. There is no way the Democrat Party is going to go over a black woman and go, even though she's completely unqualified, she does not have the intelligence or the experience or the knowledge to be president or anything else. Everything she's ever run has always been a catastrophe and a failure. She's completely unqualified, and yet she was picked because she is a black woman. And there is no way the Democrat Party of today will ever reject a black woman for president or for goddess, whatever the office is, whatever the situation is. If she's a black woman, she will be selected. They'll never pick someone over her. Never happen. And just to show you how politically correct and sick the Democrat Party is, she's a completely unqualified candidate who makes an idiot out of herself all over the campaign trail and was a catastrophe in everything she ever did, from district attorney in San Francisco, where the crime rate went through the ceiling and she refused to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, even cop killers. I mean, just the lowest of the low. And a defender of Black Lives Matter, and a defender of all the, and someone who gave money to organize and gave money and supported organizations that want to defund the police, and that were bailing out rioters from Black Lives Matter, that were bailing them out, rioters and other vicious, evil gang members, and she was giving money to their bail fund. She contributed money to their bail fund. I mean, she is a white hater, a Jew hater, an America hater, certainly an Israel hater. And she got the nomination. This was unprecedented. All of a sudden, the race for the Democrat nomination opens up. Joe Biden leads the race. It opens up. You have all these other candidates, the governor of California and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Illinois, and other people who are much more experienced and much more skilled in politics than Kamala Harris. And in 24 hours, they nominated her. They all coalesced around her right away. This was unprecedented. You never saw anything like this in American politics before. One of the two major political parties immediately threw their support behind her. All 50 Democrat state party chairmen immediately endorsed her. The whole Congress, everybody immediately galvanized behind her. Of course, the late Joe Biden came out of the grave and made his endorsement of her. And all the commentators, all the experts, all the analysts who were on the side of the Democrat Party right away coalesced around her. This is the same people, by the way, who have been saying how concerned they are because she's unpopular, because she makes stupid comments and so on. The same people who are concerned about this immediately backed her up for the presidency of the United States of America. In 24 hours, she got the nomination. You know that she secured the required delegates. The majority of the required delegates needed to win the nomination on the first ballot. Within 24 hours, she secured the pledges from them to get their support within 24 hours. There is no precedent for this in American history. Never has a party been so politically correct, been so utterly, blindly wedded to these concepts that it's a black woman, you must select her over everyone else. It's just unbelievable. I mean, for that reason alone, everybody should work to defeat her. It's just, this is so evil and so disgusting, the whole concept. It's so by the way, this is racist and sexist. Picking her is racist and sexist. She's completely unqualified. She was selected for vice president solely because of her race. Joe Biden stated months before he made this election that he's going to pick a black woman. He said, I've decided to pick a black woman as my running mate. I'm going to pick a black woman. And that's why the Congressman Jim Claiborne, black Jew-hating congressman from South Carolina, immediately endorsed Biden, and the Congressional Black Caucus got behind him because he said he's going to pick a black woman because she's black, and because she's a woman, he's going to pick her for vice president. He said this openly. And now when Republicans mention this, is that's racist to say that. You're not allowed to say. Joe Biden admitted it. Everyone in the Democrat Party admitted that this is what was going on. She certainly wasn't picked because of her intelligence, because she has none, or because of her qualifications, because she has none, or because of her glowing record. Her record is a disaster from From every vantage point, it was a disaster. She never accomplished anything. Everything she ever touched was a catastrophe.
You imagine her sitting with Putin in a meeting? I could just imagine what Putin thinks, because I saw Putin with Obama, and you could see what he was thinking. And now you're going to have another black who's a female. I could just imagine what Putin's going to think, how I could just twist this woman around my finger.
Well, the fact is, again, that this really just shows what type of country we're talking about. Now, you may say, oh, this is great. Donald Trump now will win by a landslide, you might think, which if the country was normal, that is what would happen. But no, according to the polls, Harris and Trump are tied in the polls. Tied. And in fact, a couple of the polls show Harris with a slight lead. You got to remember, we got the same thing happening now that happened with Barack Hussein Osama in 2008. Remember, the media turned him into an idol, and you weren't allowed to say a single bad thing about him. Any criticism of him was automatically racist. No one dared to mention the fact that he's a Muslim, and he is a Muslim, Barack Hussein Osama. He himself said he was a Muslim. He himself filled out forms in his school in Indonesia. When he was asked what his religion is, he checked off Muslim. And he himself is a Muslim. There's no question about it. And he's a supporter of Louis Farrakhan, the black Nazi Louis Farrakhan, who has praised Adolf Hitler and has said that the Jews deserve another Holocaust. Barack Hussein Obama, we've shown you the picture of him meeting with Farrakhan and smiling with him and shaking his hand. We've shown you the picture of it. A picture which was hidden from the American people in the 2008 election. Kamala Harris also supports Louis Farrakhan. Kamala Harris is a racist and a Jew hater of the worst type. In the war that Israel is waging now against the Hamas terrorists, she's on the side of Hamas. She praised those demonstrators, those Nazi demonstrators who are screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. She praised them. She agrees with them. And her self-hating Jewish husband, Doug Emhoff, he agrees with them. So you can imagine what Israel is going to face if, God forbid, this vicious Jew hater becomes president of the United States. And there's no question about what a danger this is. Now, it's not just her that we're thinking about here. First of all, of course, she herself can't actually run foreign policy. She doesn't have the brains to run foreign policy. The only thing she was put in charge by Biden of the border. That was the one thing she was asked to take care of as vice president. You see what a glowing job she did. She let millions upon millions of illegal aliens stampede into the country and overrun the country until we have a situation where in every major city, you can't walk the streets because of the huge crime and the dangers, and the tent cities and the hotels are all filled with illegal aliens because the cities are putting them up for free in the best in luxury hotel rooms, something which would never be done for American citizens, never. This is what she created. This is what she did at the border. By the way, she was put in charge of the border, and she never even visited the border. She never even went there to see. She didn't have to see what was going on. She just wanted to make sure that all the illegals who hate America get in. That's the only thing she was concerned about. Make sure as many get in as possible. And again, the number of people coming in, which has been estimated anywhere from 7 to 10 million because of her. The 7 to 10 million who came in are nothing compared to what will happen if she wins the election. Once the election's over, that's it. I really don't think the country has any hope for survival if she's elected. I don't think the country can survive because America's already at a tipping point. America now is about 60% white Anglo. About 60% of the U.S. population is white Anglo. 40% are non-white, non-whites from third world backgrounds, about 40% of the country. By the way, when I was a boy, it was 90% were white Anglo. Now it's 60%.
When I was a boy, it was 92%.
Okay. And I'm 68 years old. So, so it just shows you what has happened over the years. Now, from 60% to how long is it going to take for majority to be third world? Won't take that long. The majority of young people in the country under the age of 21 are already non-white third world people. So that's the future. The overwhelming majority of babies born in the United States are non-white third world people. The overwhelming majority. And so we see the future written clearly. There's no question that this country is on the way to self-destruction. And of course there are non-whites and people from other cultures who are talented or intelligent people. We see the Chinese students, for instance, and the Asian students who come to this country are who score higher than white students on tests. So this is not a racial issue. This is a cultural issue. We're not interested. I don't care about the color of someone's skin. I'm not interested in their race. I'm interested in what the future is going to hold with these trends continuing. And with these trends continuing, we see in major cities where white Anglos have become a small minority. We see in cities like Atlanta and Chicago and New York and LA, we see what happens to those cities. Now imagine when the whole country is like that. Because if the country goes in majority third world direction, the whole country becomes like that. So that's not good for anybody. But that's what Kamala Harris and the Democrats frantically want to promote, because they know that if that happens, they will always win every election, just like they do in New York and in California and in Massachusetts and in Illinois. They automatically win. And that's what they want to do. They want to do that to the whole country. And if the whole country becomes like that, it's over. It's over. You have no idea what's going to happen. You can't imagine what will happen to your savings and your bonds and your stocks and your investments and your home and the value of your home and the danger of walking the streets and the drug problem and the gangs. Just go to Mexico and see. In Mexico, you know that tens of thousands of people are slaughtered every year in Mexico by gang violence and crime, and drug violence and crime. Tens of thousands of people are slaughtered every year. It's a slaughterhouse. You go to countries like Brazil, same story. America is on the way to becoming like Brazil, like Mexico, like these other countries. That's not good for anybody. And by the way, that's not good. It's not good for the whites or the non-whites in the population. The non-whites in the population, their neighborhoods are the first ones to be victimized by crime and drugs and gang-related violence. They're the first ones that are going to be the victims of this. This is not good. So the United States will be finished, will no longer be a superpower. It will be in decline. It will absolutely collapse. And because of the massive debt, the massive crime problem, massive drug problem, and all the other problems piling up, once that happens, it's over. The country's finished. We're at that tipping point now where that's going to happen far more quickly if you have someone like Kamala Harris. Now,
it sounds like you're describing a third world nation, not the greatest nation the world ever knew.
Well, this is where the United States is already 40% third world and is on the way to becoming majority. So just look at our major cities and look what happens when that tipping point is reached. If you want that to happen to the whole country, to the entire United States, what do you think is going to happen if that happens? By the way, both houses of Congress will automatically be left-wing Democrat if that happens. The presidency will automatically be in the hands of left-wing Democrats. All judges appointed will be left-wing Democrats. Left-wing Democrats and politically correct communists, socialists, Jew haters, white haters, including whites who hate whites, They're going to be in charge of every aspect of our lives, just like you see in the major cities, just like you see in states like New York and California. That's what you're going to see in the whole country. It's going to be countrywide, and there'll be no escape. There'll be no escape from it anywhere in the country. Just like you can't escape paying, even if you move to a place like Idaho to escape, right? You figure you're going to escape. And by the way, Idaho is also being transformed demographically. All 50 states are part of this invasion. They're being transformed demographically. And you can't escape. Just like if you try to escape, you can't escape paying federal income taxes. You can't escape all the federal laws and federal regulations. You can't escape it. And you won't be able to escape the consequences of this either. And that's just the beginning of the danger. Kamala Harris is going to pick a running mate, and the media is going to do what they did with Obama. Don't underestimate the ability of the media to brainwash the American people. The media is going to be promoting her. They're already saying, oh, what a wonderful speech she made. In Wisconsin, she made such a great speech attacking Trump. She said she was a prosecutor. And as a prosecutor, she went after people just like Trump. And then just a common nothing speech that any idiot with an IQ of 50 could make. And the media said she's so brilliant. What a speech. Wow. She wasn't coughing every minute like Joe Biden. And I apologize for mentioning coughing because it's possible that our good friend here, David Ben Moshe, will cough a little, but that's just because he's sick. Joe Biden, on the other hand, always coughs all the time and always is sick and didn't know where he was going or where he was. And so the media says, wow, she doesn't cough. She completes a whole sentence. Wow, brilliant. I mean, this is the media. Now, if Donald Trump makes a speech that's much better than her, the media never gives him credit. Never. And of course, they always say that Donald Trump is a liar, which, I mean, he is. He does lie a lot. But Kamala Harris makes him look like the most truthful person in history. I mean, come on. And she's about to pick her vice presidential candidate, which is also very, very dangerous. The media is promoting two candidates in particular who seem to be the front runners right now. One is Governor Joshua Shapiro of Pennsylvania, a self-hating Jew, a nightmare for us, a nightmare if that self-hating Jew gets it. He's very slick and very clever and very effective as a speaker, as a debater, very effective. He is a very effective leader who supports everything that is wrong, and then lies and says that he's an observant Jew. He calls himself an observant Jew who wants Israel to commit suicide, an observant Jew who supports abortion up to the point of birth. In other words, a 9-month-old fully formed baby you can murder. He supports that. He's an observant Jew who supports allowing grown men to go into little girls' bathrooms. An observant Jew who supports having men in women's sports, and men say that they're really women. A man with a penis can go around saying that he's a woman. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but the stakes here are so high. Somebody's got to say this. And he called it observant Jew and a centrist. The media, he's a centrist. He's a moderate. What's centrist moderate? He's an extreme left-wing, self-hating, Judenrat, capo, degenerate, opportunistic, political prostitute, the scum of the earth, and the most dangerous person we could possibly have. And if he's
the most right-wing Republican is actually a centrist. There is no real right that has any power in this country. Absolutely.
Well, I thought Ted Cruz and Ron DeSantis, they were true. I think they're true conservatives. Donald Trump certainly is not. But anyway, sorry, he's not. We have to support him. We have no choice. Our backs are against the wall. You gotta support Donald Trump. But he's not a conservative by any means. By the way, Donald Trump, I have to mention this because it's just because you Trumpsters that continue to blindly idolize him, because we're in a lot of trouble if he wins too, and I'm going to discuss that in a moment also. Donald Trump contributed to hundreds of left-wing Democrats. You know that Donald Trump, one of the people Donald Trump used to make campaign contributions to, was a woman running for Attorney General in California called Kamala Harris. Donald Trump contributed to her campaign in California. He supported Kamala Harris for Attorney General of California. Now he's running against her and he's saying how terrible she is. She was terrible. Now, Donald Trump later said, well, I was a businessman, so I had to support left-wing Democrats for business. A businessman has to support left-wing. You mean, does Elon Musk also give his money now to left-wing Democrats? Do these other businessmen do the same thing? What do you mean a businessman? What is Kamala Harris in California going to do to his business? He had no business in California. And not only that, in other words, for him to get more profit in his business, you're allowed to contribute to traitors. You're allowed to contribute to those who are destroying the country just for the profit of your business, if it looks good for you, if it might help your business a little bit. If you're a multi-billionaire, and by the way, he's a multi-billionaire, how much does he need in his business? He already was a multi-billionaire, he claimed. And contributing to left-wing traitors who are destroying the United States, and he contributed to all of them. He contributed to Hillary Clinton. He contributed to Kamala Harris. He contributed to all the traitors and all the people that are destroying the United States. But anyway, look, we got to support him because the alternative is so much worse. But we still got to support him. Now, Shapiro is a disaster and a catastrophe and very dangerous. And the other leading candidate for vice president, apparently, is Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, who is married to a self-hating Jew. Remember, his wife was shot and almost assassinated. And he now is on this fanatic crusade to take everybody's guns away. By the way, it's another thing they're going to do. They're going to come after your guns. Believe me, they plan to do that. They're going to come after your guns. They don't want an armed populace. Very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. We don't have a choice. We got to support Donald Trump. And I'm going to tell you why that's bad, because Donald Trump is also bad. Very bad. He just got a letter from Abu Mazen or Mahmoud Abbas. Abu Mazen, a.k.a. Mahmoud Abbas, the main terrorist in the PLO Fatah mass murder organization. Abu Mazen is a mass butcher, a vicious Nazi mass butcher. And he wrote a letter to Trump condemning the assassination attempt on Trump. Oh, how nice of him. Abu Mazen is the one, by the way, who he and Arafat sent Sirhan to assassinate Robert F. Kennedy. Sirhan was in the PLO, and he assassinated Robert F. Kennedy, who was running for president. Now, I'm not a fan of the Kennedys. I hate the Kennedys. But, and RFK Jr., who's running, by the way, is also scum. But still, he really condemns assassinations. He's the one, he sent people out to assassinate people. He assassinated a candidate for president who was a very serious, in 1968 when Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. He was a very strong contender for the presidency. He might have been elected president. He assassinated him in the middle of the campaign. But anyway, Abu Mazen Mahmoud Abbas, the Muslim Nazi terrorist who wants to destroy America and Israel, whose supporters, by the way, chant death to America. And Donald Trump publicized his letter and thanked him for it. He didn't thank the other people who wrote to him the way he thanked this. He went out of his way to thank him and said, "I will bring peace to the Middle East." That was his response to the letter. He said, thank you, and I will bring peace to the Middle East. Remember, the Trump so-called peace plan is suicide for Israel. Trump wants to create a Palestinian terrorist state, which would be suicide for Israel. Trump wanted Israel to give up almost all of Judea and Samaria. Trump wanted Israel to give up even territory within pre-1967 tiny Israel in the Trump so-called peace plan. People say Trump moved the embassy. What morons you are, you people who are so impressed that he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. What morons you are. He moved the embassy, but his peace plan, his so-called peace plan, calls for Israel to give up Jerusalem. His plan would create a Palestinian terrorist state with its capital in East Jerusalem. So in other words, moving the embassy didn't affect anything. He doesn't believe in a united Jerusalem. He believes in giving it over to the PLO terrorists. If his peace plan went into effect, it would lead to the destruction of Israel, and Donald Trump couldn't care less. He would gladly throw Israel under the bus in 2 seconds just to glorify his name for another 5 minutes. That's Donald Trump. Very dangerous. So no matter who wins, we're in trouble. No matter who wins. Now, we support Trump over Kamala Harris mainly for one reason. Because Biden and Harris and Blinken are now imposing sanctions on Israeli citizens, including the Hilltop youth. That's very dangerous. And so they have gone a step further than Trump ever went. And I hope Trump wouldn't do that too. I don't know. I don't trust him. I don't believe him. But I hope he wouldn't do that. So we're going to take a chance. We're going to go with Trump and hope that he won't do that. But we are definitely going to work against Kamala Harris. She certainly would be worse than Donald Trump, and we have to work against her. But the only real hope you have, if you want to save Israel, if you care about Israel and love Israel and want to do what God commands you to do with Israel, because Israel is the only hope of the world. The survival of Israel, the world depends upon the survival of Israel. That's why God created the world, so he could create an example in Israel for all nations to see. And if you support Israel and you want to fulfill God's commandment to support Israel, or bless them that bless thee and curse them that curse thee. If you want to do that, there's only one way to do it, with the Hilltop youth. The Hilltop youth are the only way. It doesn't matter if Trump is president or Kamala Harris is president, they're going to push Israel to create a PLO terrorist state and to commit national suicide. That's coming. That's coming. They're already doing that. They're already pressuring, and it's going to get much worse, especially after the election. Much worse. And Israel will give in the end, God forbid. The only thing that could stop this is if there are facts on the ground. Israel's losing the war in Gaza against the Hamas terrorists. They're not defeating them, and they won't defeat them. It's just like Vietnam. And the war with Hezbollah has expelled 100,000 Jews from northern Israel. Did you know that 100,000 Jews are homeless and refugees in their own country because of Hezbollah in the Galil, in the Galilee, and northern Israel? They've gotten 100,000 Jews to leave their homes and Hezbollah is shelling and destroying their homes. And with all of this happening on all these fronts, Israel is losing. And Iran is, according to Blinken, would take Iran only a week to build nuclear bombs. They're just waiting for the right moment to build their nuclear bombs. Like, the dangers are unbelievable. And Hezbollah, by the way, has 250,000 rockets and missiles aimed at Israel, at all of Israel's infrastructure. They could paralyze Israel with that. This, on every front, Israel is losing, and losing badly. There's only one front where Israel is winning. In Judea and Samaria, right now we're winning because the Hilltop youth are there. They're giving us the one front where we have a victory, where we're having a victory. Tens of thousands of Arabs are fleeing Judea and Samaria because of the Hilltop youth. The Hilltop youth are building new communities, despite the fact that the Israeli army and police come in, and the sick Israeli government, that traitor Netanyahu, Shem Reshem Yirkav, he sends in the army and the police and everybody else to destroy their communities, and yet they're growing and growing and growing. And probably the main reason why they're growing is because J.T.F. is helping them. They didn't have that help. 3 years ago, they weren't getting that type of help. I mean, we've sent them probably something, I don't have the exact figures, but I didn't add up the exact figures, but probably something in the neighborhood of $2 million in the past 3 years. And without that, $2 million is nothing to build communities, what's $2 million? In the United States, there are many houses that cost $2 million, one house for one family. Without J.T.F., they couldn't do what they're doing. All the equipment, all the things that they need and everything else. Without J.T.F., I don't think that they certainly couldn't do what they're managing to do now. We've got to support them. We've got to help them. If you want to help Israel, that's the way to help. Support the one group that is giving us a victory on at least one of Israel's fronts to prevent a Palestinian terrorist state from taking over. This is a matter of life and death. It's a matter of survival here. We've got to support the Hilltop youth. There are two ways to support the Hilltop youth. One is to go to our Hebrew main page, hayamin.org. And the page is in Hebrew. You have to go to hayamin.org. You'll see the pages in Hebrew, except for a big donate button in English on top. You click on the donate button, and in several minutes, you can easily and very conveniently donate to the heroic Hilltop youth. That's if you want to do it online. If you want to do it through the regular mail, you just send checks and money orders made out to J.T.F., and you send it to J.T.F. P.O. Box 650327, Fresh Meadows, New York, 11365. David?
Well, you were talking about how Kamala Harris is going to support Hamas or does support Hamas. Well, the Jew hatred is spreading around the globe. In a bookstore in Chicago called City Lit, not Light, City Lit Bookstore removes the book Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow because the author was Gabrielle Zevin, and the store claims she's a Zionist and got rid of all the books. What's next? You're going to take her books, put them in the middle of the street and burn them like Germany in the late 20s and 30s? Then we have a fast food place. I was 6, I didn't study it. I just watched the video. Jewish woman went in for a cup of coffee, and she wanted to use the bathroom. 3 about 20, 21-year-olds who worked there refused to let her use the bathroom. They called her a Zionist, and they were yelling, "Long live Palestine, long live Palestine." Well, of course, all this was captured on video, and whatever fast food place that is, they fired the 3 of these jerks. Can you imagine if she was black and they said, "You can't use the bathroom, you're black"? But because she's Jewish, nobody said a word except the company was sharp enough to get rid of them. And now the Paris Olympics start. I think the opening ceremonies are Friday, the 26th. I'm not sure. They don't want the Israeli team there. Did they say they didn't want the Russian team? No. Did they say they didn't want the Ukrainian team? No. They just don't want the Israeli team there because Jews are supposed to march meekly to their deaths and then be pitied. That's the kind of Jews a good part of the world wants. They can't stand Jews that fight back. And look at how they're fighting back. This war should have been over in a few weeks. Israel should have zipped to a victory and left the rest of the Muslim world in awe.
In a few days. In a few days. Israel could have won in a few days. All right, go ahead. By the way, as far as the Paris Olympics, 57 Muslim countries who massacre and brutalize and rape their own people. Are any of them being subject to boycotts?
No, they'll say what they do in their own countries is fine. But Israel is a terrorist state. The fact that the Muslims commit the terror against Israel seems to go unnoticed. And it's a daily terrorism. Rockets from every which way. But it's a good thing most of these people can't shoot straight. Otherwise, the death toll would be immense in Israel. We all know Alec Baldwin. He's got a brother, Stephen, who I always thought stayed out of politics. Now he's coming out as a far leftist too. He says there should be a shooting against Greg Gutfeld from Fox News, Jesse Waters from Fox News, and Fox in general. So it wasn't enough they tried to take out Trump. These leftists, because nobody's stopping them, the right is non-existent. They're busy home watching baseball and soon football, drinking beer and dripping pizza all over their t-shirts. Because nobody said anything, the left feels emboldened to get more violent now. And we'll see at what point does the right respond, or is the right finish? It's all talk, no action. But we'll see what kind of violence is used. And then this is Melania Trump held up a t-shirt. It said it all. It was really a good shirt to hold up. The writing on it, and it was in big letters, the problem is not guns. It's hearts without God, homes without discipline, schools without prayer, and courtrooms without justice. If that doesn't nail what this country has become, I don't know where the shirt came from. She probably saw it in some shirt place that prints that stuff up.
They fit all that on one shirt?
Yeah, in pretty big letters too. All in the front. And most of you know, I only have 2 more stories because it's hard for me to talk. Most of you know that I play table tennis. I used to play in the pro ranks at the tournaments. I played in the US Open. I played in the Nationals. I even went to Canada once and played in Toronto at the Canadian, I guess it was the Canadian Championships. It was held in a huge airplane hangar. We had 1/3 of that hangar. The other 2/3 were farm animals. You couldn't believe the stench in there. My matches weren't until evening, and by late afternoon, my eyes were tearing. I couldn't get the burn out of my eyes because all these animals, horses, cows, prize pigs, they were all there all day long. 2/3 of this airplane hangar. So that was all. But so I retired in '99. I play for fun here. The Elks Lodge, we rent space. And I didn't go one day last week. And one of the players told me, who's our coordinator between the club and the Elks, we have a young man who's in high school. And we usually play from 9:30 in the morning to 12:30. On Fridays, we play from 2 to 5, 2 to 4:30. And the kid said, I got to be home by 4 o'clock. I got to leave no later than 4. So he asked, do you have the time? So the guy told him, we have a clock on 3 of the 4 walls. And he showed him where. And, the big standard analog clock with the 2 hands and the second hand going around. And the kid's looking at it and looking at it and looking at it. And the table tennis guy says to him, you can't read that clock, can you? And he said, no. Now, this is not somebody who went to school in the inner city or the suburbs of a big city. He went in this rural town where I thought education was really good. Comparatively, education isn't good in this country anywhere. Maybe this is Common Core and this is what they must teach and what not to teach. But I learned to read a clock like that in nursery school. And here you have somebody who's about to become a sophomore when school starts again, and he can't read an analog clock. I wonder if he can write. Can he write cursive? We learned that, I think it was 3rd grade, we learned cursive. 3rd grade in China, they're starting to teach elementary calculus. And one of the Chinese leaders said, we play chess while America plays checkers. I don't even think we're up to checkers anymore. And my last story is when I was a little boy, of course, I lived in New York. I was a rabid Brooklyn Dodgers fan. You remember the Boys of Summer? Duke Snyder? Remember Willie, Mickey, and the Duke? Duke, you had to be one of those teams' fans. Duke Snyder, you had Gil Hodges, Carl Furillo, Jackie Robinson, Pee Wee Reese, Roy Campanella, Don Newcomb, Carl Erskine, Clem Labine, Johnny Podgers. Even though the Dodgers were they were actually on paper the better team, better than the Yankees, they couldn't beat the Yankees in the World Series. When the World Series came, the Yankees always beat them, with the one exception, 1955. I remember my mother going, wow, the Dodgers won, I can't believe it. But it was a fun time. Ebbets Field was a little bandbox of a stadium. They called it a field, not a stadium. And of course, I hated the Yankees, the dreaded Yankees. But I have found new respect for at least one Yankee, a lot of respect. You remember the catcher? Yogi Berra. Well, this is a little aside story. Ashadina's grandmother was a Dodger fan. She told me this story. And her grandmother was booing Yogi relentlessly at the top of her lungs, and she was near home plate. They finally threw her out of the stadium because she wouldn't let up for a second on Yogi Berra. Well, Yogi Berra has my respect. During D-Day, he landed at Bloody Omaha. He was a seaman first class in a landing craft that was actually a rocket launcher. You remember seeing the scenes with like 30 rockets go up at once, all fired at once? That was his boat. And not everybody in that landing craft made it back. I guess he stepped on the landing. He was a seaman. He had to go back and reload, pick up more, and bring more soldiers in. But I guess he just had to stand on Omaha Beach for a second and then get back in and go back and get more. But you have to respect anybody that took part in D-Day, anybody who fought in World War II, providing you were on the right side. And that's my story for this week. I had a big nostalgic story, but I can't tell it this week. Maybe next.
In your heart, you know we're right. And in your guts, you know they're nuts. It's time to act. A lot of important things, historic and momentous things are happening. We've got to take action. Action. Are all of you taking action? Those of you who are watching, are you actually doing something? We need you to actually do something. Because if you don't, the bad guys win, God forbid. J.T.F. gives you a chance to do something very good. Support us, join with us. If we fight together as a team, we can make this a better world and we can change history. For J.T.F., until next week, this is Chaim Ben Pesach and David Ben Moshe. Shalom.